Good evening and welcome to Art Talk. I'm Laura Womack. Jen McHugh is our technical director.
Happy rainy Wednesday, everyone.
And Deanna Bocher is our content producer. Tonight we're talking with the honored artist of Phillips Mill's 96 Juried Art Show, Shawn Campbell. Shawn's sculptures intertwine nature imagery with figurative forms. Her people have branches growing out of their heads, possess wings, or are crowned with a bird's nest. She metaphorically reunites humans with nature, the environment from which we've grown so separate. Hence, her people are familiar as if they wandered out of a fairy tale or ancient mythology. They are fey, with a touch of the vulnerable. Shawn had always been a two-dimensional artist. She was headed for a painting class when something drew her instead to a sculpture class. It was a difficult time in her life when she had lost someone close to her. The clay in her hands soothed her grief and freed her creativity. After years running global operations for a talent management company, Shawn became a full-time, award-winning artist. She exhibits widely, including regularly at Phillips Mill, where she won the top sculpture prize in 2023. Shawn is the chair of the Phillips Mill Member Art Show and Sale. Welcome to Art Talk, Shawn Campbell.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
And welcome back. You're returning.
Yes, I'm returning. I'm like, well, how many things have changed in the amount of time since I was on here the last time, which was during COVID?
Oh, so much has changed. And we were actually in your studio, which seems
Yeah,
counterintuitive that during COVID we were in your studio and now we're all on Zoom.
right.
But we're really glad to have you back and we're looking forward to talking about your art. I also want to welcome all of you in the audience and remind you that we love to have you join the conversation by putting your questions in the Q&A. So join us. And Jen, let's see what Shawn has to show us tonight. I know that piece. That was in Phillips Mill.
Yes, it was. You know it very, very well.
I know it very well. Well, I don't know if we have another big picture of that, but tell us about this gorgeous piece and why it's your favorite.
Uh, well, it was like the first big sculpture I ever did where it was the full body sculpture. I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I went into it. I knew she was going to have a nest on her head. I knew I was going to have to do wings. And the wings, I had finished the entire body and I had done the wings separately. And then it became like this engineering feat to get the wings onto the body. Um, so it's just still to this day, it's one of my favorite pieces. And I miss it, Laura.
It's one of mine too. Okay, Jen, what else do we have?
Now, this one, another friend of mine has, and she's called With Open Arms. And, this started out, it was the first time I ever used this red clay, which is a lot different to use with your hands. You have to compress it differently. And I just thought about the whole idea of being able to see through her. And the glaze that you see going down her arms is like 12 different glazes that I just poured down her body and let them do their thing. So I had no idea what it would come out looking like. But her face is, of course, my fave. And that's because I put this kind of crackle that as the heat rises in the kiln, it cracks the glaze that you have on top of her face. And I just thought it looked so cool because she's so beautiful and perfect. And then she has this mask of kind of, it's almost like she's, her skin is flaying off of her, but it's not. It's just, I still think she's beautiful, even though she has the mask on.
Oh,
So
she is. She's lovely. I really feel, Shawn, that this is such a mature piece. I don't know how long how long have you been a sculptor?
now I think this year is 8 years.
8 years. And
Yeah.
this piece you did when? I think you started out as a mature artist. Let me just say that. It's mature
I was
sculpture.
old. Uh,
Cute.
I think it's, Jen can correct me because I believe it's dated on the vine, but I think it's like 2019, maybe 2020, right around there.
It's there's something about it that communicates. I like a lot of your sculpture. It communicates symbolically on some sort of primordial level. You know, you've got a pun in there, right, with the open arms, but I think it goes deeper than that. There's the holes in her chest, and that combined with the mask or contrasted with the mask, it's I think there's a lot going on in this piece.
I think the other thing is, I know that you think it's a pun with open arms, but it's really not meant that way. How her hands are placed, those are her open arms, not the fact that her arms are open going all the way down. She's like welcoming you is really what it was. She's with open arms. She's, drawing you in and maybe comforting you, or, everything I do, I try to always keep it on the positive. We have so much negativity that I don't like to go there. I mean, I think about it sometimes that it would be so easy for me to do something, and I know other artists that do, and other sculptors that do kind of more of a negative or a darker, and maybe people will say my crow piece that I have at the Phillips Mill show for the 96 is a little dark, but it's not. It's not meant that way. It's all positive and uplifting, or should be. And I would hope people would view it that way as well.
Yeah. So we got a question to start us off right away, Jen. Let's take that, and I want to encourage you all to participate in the conversation. That's one reason we have them.
We have two, well, one's a question, one's a comment. Terry said it's her eyes, which I agree with you, Terry. Love the eyes. And Emily Chang, welcome, Emily. Good evening. Are your subjects from life people you know?
My subjects sometimes are from life. I will see someone and I will take note of their face, whether it be their eyes or their nose or the way they smile. A lot of times my sculptures are kind of me, because I do refer to myself in a mirror on my workbench as I'm sculpting something, because I want to get, the cheekbone right and the placement. And when I was doing my 100 Faces in 100 Days, there's this one where the woman's screaming, and I have my mouth open like I was screaming so that I could see like what your face does. So a lot of them end up kind of being like me, especially the noses. Poor things. And but yes, at times they are other people, but many times it's me or my daughters.
Thank you for that. And let's go to our next one up, The Keeper.
This is the very first piece that I ever entered into the Phillips Mill show. First time I ever entered. I've told the story before, that I remember getting there. I was so nervous. Oh my God. And I didn't even know what Phillips Mill was, but I was nervous because everybody was so solemn about it or whatever when they were bringing their work in. And I had this huge pedestal that weighed like 50 pounds, and I had to get it out of my car. I walked it all the way from the parking lot rather than pulling up at front because I didn't know that I was allowed to do that. And by the time I got in there, I was sweating, and people were like walking down the line. And it was kind of like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. That's what I always think of, And that was when you used to have to fill out the little ticket when you got there. I just remember I was so nervous, and this gallery that represents me, the Artful Deposit, CJ Mugavero, she is the one that told me about this. And she said, yeah, it's really hard to get into that show, but I really think you should go for it. So the fact that this was the first time I entered and I actually got this piece in it, it's like near and dear to me, this piece.
It's near and dear to me too. It's so different from so many of the other pieces that we're looking at tonight.
Yes.
Interesting that it's such an early piece. It's got a lot. There's a lot around it beyond the clay, right? I mean, you
Yes.
often have additions to the clay, but it's really much more intense, this one. And it's a pretty intense piece. Tell us about the inspiration.
Well, number one, I am allergic to bees. Um, but I love them. I really do. I think that, I'm like, I wear the button, save the bees. And I truly believe that. When I was making this, a lot of what I was getting feedback on is don't make the body so it has actual breasts or, physical features, make it more andron, I can't say that word, andronymous or
Androgynous.
androgynous. And I also had never made arms before. So this is like all the things I'd never done before, and I just kind of tried it. And I hoped that it would come out. And, I think it's kind of cool because it actually, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but in the front and the back of the sculpture, there's actual a cage inside the chest that has more bees inside the chest. And there's also kind of like a honeycomb all over the sculpture. And, come to find out years later, they have these little like texture stamps that you can use, but I actually made my own because I was new to it. I didn't know what I was doing. So I made my own little honeycomb stamp out of a paintbrush.
I love that. And you also, you've got not a honeycomb, but you've got the lines, the structure
Yeah, that was
on
my
the
when I
chest of the
first
keeper
started.
as well,
That's what I did.
beyond,
Yeah,
right?
when I first started, that's what I
So,
did. And I always
so
put.
what we're saying is just below the heart, below the opening, we see the detail of the honeycomb, but that sort of fractures and opens out, right, across the rest of the keeper's body.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a really nice piece, and all the little bees. All the
All the little
little
bees.
bees.
Oh, yes.
Okay, what's up next?
Um, I think this kind of says it without me saying what it is. It's a wall piece. Um, I wanted to represent everyone and that we are all in each other's hands. And gosh, if that wasn't important now, I don't know when it would be. And I mean, I love this piece. I have this piece still in my house, and it was at Ellerslie, and um, I don't know. I mean, I tried to use every single combination of clay. Those are not glazed or painted. It's all different clays that went into making that sculpture, which kind of talks about all different kinds of people, you know?
Right. And it's not skin deep. Goes all the
No.
way through. What is the white? What are they? There's sort of a lozenge shape.
Oh, it's open.
Ah, okay.
That's all open.
Okay. And
So
how, yeah,
it's raised. So it's kind of like, think of a donut that's been sliced down in half, sort of,
right.
um, the wide way.
Yeah,
And so the whole kind of got off centered, which I wanted. I mean, that's how I planned it, so that I could put more hands on one side of it.
right. Yeah. Very nice. And how old is this piece, Shawn?
I think this is 2021, 2022, right around there.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Jen?
I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, go ahead, Shawn.
No, it could actually be 2023. It's right in that period of time.
Okay.
Definitely after, when we were back to interacting with humans.
All right. And when you're bringing sculptures into Phillips Mill now, do you still feel like it's the soup Nazi?
I don't feel that way at all. And I don't think, and I'm part of that now too. Um, and I hope other people don't feel that way. I hope they feel that we're welcoming and we're thrilled for them and we're excited for them and we're excited for the mill as each piece comes in. I know that for sure on the member show, we feel that way and the volunteers feel that way. So I would say that no, it doesn't feel that way at all anymore. But I would like to hear from other people to see what they think.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just like to mention now too, because I think people don't always understand the honored artist. The honored artist is an artist who has, uh, achieved recognition in their field as an artist, but also there's a relationship with the mill that we're recognizing as well. That the art committee, I should say, is recognizing as well. And I think that's really important because the mill was started by artists for artists to show. And I think there's a perception for a while that we were just a social club or more focused on that. And so I think the honored artist is a really important position and it's an important award. And I really want people to know that it's being a good artist and being recognized as a good artist, but it's also for that relationship, giving back to the mill and promoting that relationship and that camaraderie and feeling of collegiality at the mill among artists, right? So
Yes.
yeah, and you certainly represent both of those things, Shawn, having achieved, accomplished as an artist, prize winning, but also what you give to the mill and therefore to the artist community. I think that's really important to recognize. So, that being said, unless you want to comment on that.
I do want to comment on it just a little bit. And I would just say this, that, I've, prior to, going full-time artist, I pretty much worked from home for the 15 years leading up to it. And then I retired and then I started really getting into, well, painting first and then, more so, and then clay. Um, and I didn't have a community. I didn't have any of that. And so I remember the first show where the keeper was at the first show, and I was doing the gallery sitting as an artist, and they were at the front desk at the sales and said, "Oh, you should really join the art committee." And lo and behold, I did. The next year, I was very nervous because I'd never really joined anything before, and people could not have been more welcoming, warm, giving. It has been the life-changing experience for me because I never, I worked from home for 15 years. I didn't have any of that. So I think that maybe is why I get so involved, is because I know how important it is. And I love to see other people that have now become members of the mill and are getting involved in volunteering. And I think they're feeling the same thing that I felt and that I continue to feel.
That's great.
So it's important.
I really appreciate that. Okay, Jen, we've got some question comments, don't we?
Yes, we do. So first, CJ is just sending love and so
Oh,
incredibly proud of Shawn and to be part of her inspiring and incredible journey. We have a question from Vicky. How many hours does a piece like With Open Arms take to make? It's amazing.
I would say that in average, I'm fast. Number one, I am fast, but you have to let the clay set up. So I would say that particular piece, it could take a week for me to actually sculpt it. Then I have to let it dry, and I have to let it dry far enough so that I can apply underglaze and they don't flake off, but not too far. And then you've got to really let it dry all the way through before you fire it for the first time. So it could be almost a month before you get it into the first firing. And the whole thing, after the first firing, when I take it out of the bisque firing, I'm like, woohoo, let's go. And then I can glaze it, or I can add more. I always use oxides in my work. I'll use oxides or more underglaze. And then I'll fire, if I have enough to fire a full load, I'll fire it as quickly as possible because I'm so anxious to see how it comes out. I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. Every single time I open that kiln, I'm like, what's going to be there? You know, and it never changes. It always is wonderful and fun. And I'm thrilled, you know.
Are you surprised?
Yeah, sometimes because I am very experimental, I am not afraid to uh, have a piece go into my garden because it's not acceptable, but I tried something new. I love to learn and I love to try new things. And it's so funny, it's so opposite of painting. I'm totally fearless with clay, and I was so fearful when I painted. So it's like total and complete opposite.
Do you know why that is?
I think it's because I was so precious every time I painted anything. I had this in my mind's eye, I had this image of what I wanted to paint. And when I would start painting, I just couldn't get it where I had envisioned it. Clay is the total opposite for me. I can start and it could be totally off from what I thought I wanted. And I can somehow manage to sculpt it into something that I love. And many times, if it starts out really bad, those are the ones that are the best when I get done.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How many are in your garden?
Oh, shoot.
Okay, that's,
Well,
you don't have to give us a number.
it's not terrible. I'm going to say probably 8, maybe 8.
That's really good. I bet they look fabulous out there.
Oh, yeah, they grow moss on them. They're cool as hell. They
Yeah.
really are. So if anybody, you know, when I have another one, just let me know and I'll give you one of my garden ones.
That's very generous. We've got a bunch of questions
Okay.
rolling in, and I'm really excited. We're going to get to those in a minute, but before we leave this particular topic, because I have this image of your Fey people in the garden, and uh, for maybe people don't know that word, the vague unworldliness. I don't know how you feel about that description. To me, that word, in a way, was made for your people. How do you feel about that? And the garden seems like a great place for them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it because I know I don't I don't think they're sometimes people say they're whimsical. I don't think they're whimsical.
Mm,
Um, I think they're, you know, I love making things that you could put outside. Whether you know, maybe that's not the intention initially, but I can make it possible so that it can go outside. Um, there's nothing like having a beautiful sculpture out in one's garden. I love it. It adds this magical thing to it, you know. And in our vegetable garden, we have this. I made a totem pole that has like I guess maybe 8 pieces to it. And you know, every year we get excited to put it up, and you know, and I have maybe I guess 6 of them throughout the country now. And I know that people that have got them from me say the same thing that they cannot wait till the season changes and they can put them out. So, you know, maybe next year at the mill, all my entry will be something that somebody could put in their garden. You
cool,
know.
cool. Okay, let's see what people have to say. Or
Okay. Ilsa wants to know, do you have size or dimensions on these sculptures?
Yes. Contact me later. I mean, most of my sculptures are, if it's like a figurative sculpture, typically they are anywhere from 14 inches tall to 20 inches tall. It varies. So, for instance, with open arms, I'd say that's probably closer to 20, 18, 20, yeah. And that's kind of typical size because my kiln is 22 inches in the interiorly, unless I make it in pieces. So, and sometimes I make sculptures because I want them to be bigger, and I'll put them together afterwards. And that's what thank God for epoxy and things like that, which by the way is the sculptor's like secret.
That you already, it's like you knew the question from Rennie saying, My husband was wondering about how you fit your pieces in the kiln.
Yeah, 22 inches. And I kind of stick to that. I was trying to think of what my last one was, and the head almost scraped the top of the kiln. And my husband and I like had to build a pulley system, and basically we put this real thin piece of wood over the open kiln, and then we put the sculpture on with a strap around it, and we ease it down into the kiln, and then we very gently pull the strap out. And it's worked so far. And the first time we ever used it was on Nest, that Laura has. And let me tell you, I was like having a heart attack putting that in.
I'm so glad she turned out so well. I mean, that was really a moment for you at the mill as well. I mean, that piece really stood out and got a lot of attention. Yeah. Okay. We've got a few more questions, and keep them coming, folks. We really appreciate it.
Okay, Lisa Dominic wants to know, how do you know the clay if it's fully dry?
It's really funny. A couple of years ago, I made this sculpture, and which I didn't give you a picture of, called Ancestors. And on both sides, it took me a month to sculpt because it has 3 faces going down the front with their eyes closed, 3 faces going down the back with their eyes open. And it's called Ancestors. It's supposed to be, when they're alive and when they've passed. And I put it into the kiln. It's very large. And I put it into the kiln. And it was the first time that I had made that huge of a piece, and it blew up into maybe 100 pieces. And I was just devastated because I had worked so hard on it. And I actually put it back together with epoxy. And you can't even tell that it blew up. But what I found out after that, because I talked to another sculptor, is if you candle it, which means you kind of put it on a warm for however many hours. I put mine on for at least 24 hours. Some of them, if they're very big and the walls are thick on the sculpture, I'll put it in for 48 hours. And it'll just stay at a constant 200 degrees. And I've never, ever had anything blow since then.
That's great. Okay, we appreciate the Q&A. We keep those coming. We just want to look at some more pretty pictures of art. And then we'll be back to the Q&A. What do we got, Jen? Okay, Shawn, tell us about Cardinalis Cardi, if I said that correctly.
Yeah, so I did this whole series. I think there ended up being 4 or 5 of them that are birds. They're women, but they're birds. And this particular one is a cardinal. And as you can see by her arm, she has little wings going up her arms. It might be kind of hard to see. And the other thing is, my favorite things to sculpt are the eyes and the hands. I just love sculpting hands. Hands say everything. Hands say, stay away. Hands say, come to me, or I need you, or please, or whatever. And so I always, I love putting a hand into my sculptures. Sometimes they're in very odd places on the sculpture, but I like to put them in there.
So why the birds? Why people as birds, women, bird women?
I think it's like a freedom thing. I think it's to me, that's what it is. It's freedom to escape, or to investigate other things, or to lift the load. I don't know. I do a lot of bird, period, throughout all of my work. I love them. And, here you go. This is Sai. This is one of my very favorite sculptures. A lot of them are because I have a bay window in my studio. And when I look out the bay window, there's always 3 crows out there, and like they chat next to each other. And, crows always stay together throughout their lifetime. They always are in it could be more, it could be less, but there's always more than one. And so and here you go, Blue Jane. Once again, yes, she has wings all over her. Feathers. I just love them. I love doing the feathers. I love how it feels. And, you know, there was a whole series of these. Sai really wasn't part of that series. It's just that I loved making something that was laying down. And I was thinking one day with the sculpture Sai, you know, it's kind of contentment, you know, and I was feeling contented. And that's what it reminds me of. It's like sigh, like I can rest now. I'm content. My life feels good, you know, and I feel good in it. And that's what Sigh is about.
I just love the expression on her face. You can see that relaxation. You can see the utter release and comfort. There's no brow furrowing that I always have. How is it difficult to get expression? I mean, to me, you know, again, you're doing a lot of figural pieces, and we're so oriented as humans with eyes to recognize and analyze immediately, you know, faces, and we know the human form so well. I think it's very challenging to represent that because we are so attuned. But how do you get the expression?
You know, I've really worked on that because I think a lot of sculptors, they don't. I mean, you look at it and you go, oh, it's a sculpture, you know, and it's hard and it's, you know, kind of, there's no, it doesn't emote anything. Um, so when I did my 100 faces in 100 days, I had 100 times to try to figure out how to make an expression different. And I really worked on it. There you go. I don't think that's all 100, but, you know, I tried to make each face different, different expression, the eyes set different, the nose different, the mouth different, you know, hair, you name it, for each one. And there's not one that's the same as another, you know. And that was a great project for me because it really helped me learn how to look at people and look at the different shape of their eye versus their nose, and, you know, how far the nose was from the eye level and how big before you get to the lip, you know, that space is between the nose and the lip. Everybody's different, and it changes how the expression looks. So you have to really investigate people's faces. And, you know, I like doing that.
Are you looking at everybody's face when you're talking to them and you see them?
Always, always. And I'm noting. And a lot of times, if I really like somebody's face, because it's unique, I will ask them if I could take pictures of them. And there's an artist that I just recently took her pictures because she came to Stover Mill, and she has the most delightful face. I'm not going to say who it is, but she has this great, cute little smile with the dimples. And oh my God, I was like in heaven. And I begged her to take her picture, and she will be a sculpture. That is for sure.
Okay. Do people react well when you ask to photograph them?
Oh yeah. You know, a lot of these people I met at ShopRite or Home Depot, and I would just ask them. I would tell them I'm a sculptor. I'm doing 100 faces in 100 days, and I really like to include your face. May I take a picture of you? And 9 times out of 10, well, really almost 10 times out of 10, they would say yes.
That's fabulous.
And they would kind of giggle and say, "Are you sure?"
That's so cute. I love it. Wow. That's wonderful. I used to do man on the street interviews as a reporter, and this is like a whole new take on that. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen. I'm torn here. We've got questions pouring in. Some of them in the chat, which we would prefer them in the Q&A so we can find them all in one place, but we'll get to them. Shall we do a couple questions, Jen? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I am noting all of your congratulatory notes, and I will pass those along to Shawn, but we are just getting so many questions. And I'm going to wait while she lets her dog out.
Sorry.
Because
We're casual here. We're casual.
It's okay.
Maybe we just kept whining. I was like, "Oh God, I gotta let her out." Forget.
It's fine. We're all friends. So Rory wants to know, did your paintings also represent nature and the human figure?
No. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe they should have, but they were typically landscapes. And yeah, I'm going to say no, and they weren't good. I was not a good painter. I admit it.
Shawn, there's no separating nature from your work.
No, that's true. That's true. But I wasn't a good painter.
Okay. All right. What's next, Jen?
Barry here. In your creative process, do you start from a drawing, a photograph, or just an idea in your head?
I start with a word. So as you will see, most of my sculptures are one word. So, and I don't know if I gave you tension, but I would have a word, or I would be thinking of a word, and I would try to figure out how to represent the word with a picture. It's the girls with the braid.
Oh, it's behind you.
Oh yeah, maybe you can see it there. I don't know.
Yes, the two with the same braid.
Yeah. And that's sisters and tension between sisters, which I have sisters and my daughters have each other. And it's telling a story. And you know, I hope that my sculptures tell a story. I love storytelling. But I don't want to be the one telling the story. I want you to look at it and see that there's a story there that I'm trying to tell. And maybe it's your story and you come up with it. Just like a lot of times I don't name things like Mary or, you know, Joan or whatever. I come up with the word like tension, and then you can decide what they're named, you know, because everybody's going to make their own story around the sculpture. I hope.
Yeah. Okay, let's do another question and then we'll go back to the images.
Okay. Are the finishes on your sculptures always glaze, underglaze, etc., and fired in the kiln? Or do you ever finish your work with acrylic paint?
Okay. I almost never put actual glaze on my figurative sculptures, very, very rarely. Um, in recent years, I have used some acrylic paint, not very often. I do use, upon occasion, I love using like acrylic ink or alcohol ink a little bit, because you can dissolve it with the water, not the alcohol ink, but the acrylic ink, and it makes this very nice kind of muted surface when it hits the clay, and I like that. So I have been doing that recently, but prior to that, I've always used oxides and underglazes. Sometimes I'll use glaze. And if I do functional work, of course, I'm using underglaze, oxides, and glaze. I always glaze my functional work. I'm going to let my other dog out now.
Okay, so let's go ahead while she's doing that, Jen. Let's pull up the next picture. I think let's see those 1,000 faces again. Yeah.
And Shawn, Rennie wanted to know, how big are those faces?
They're 6 inches. Approximately. You know, I tried to keep them all because they were all shown in one place at the Bethlehem House Gallery. I was part of a show there, and we put up all 100 faces. And it was just like, I wish I would have included a picture of that, because it was pretty amazing. And, you know, it was like I was like the proud mama of 100 babies, you know. So
It's been pretty powerful seeing them all there together.
yeah, it was so neat. It really was. And then you're like, when I started that project, I was going to do 20. And then I got past 20. I'm like, oh, I'll keep going. Maybe I'll do 30. And when I got to 30, I go, no, you know, I'm going to do 100. And of course, when I got to in the 70s, I'm like, why did I say I was going to do 100?
All right. Let's go. There we go.
This is a recent sculpture. I went to and took a workshop in Missoula, Montana, with my mentor, Adrian Arleo. And it was a sculpture about figures with animals. That was the workshop. And I didn't know what I was going to make when I went there. But I learned so much. I've taken many Zoom classes with her over the last maybe 5 years. I had never taken an in-person workshop. And it's so funny because I was there for a week, and when I came home, she didn't have hands on, she didn't have a head, and the rabbit didn't have a head. And I carried her in a carry-on duffel bag through 3 airports. And thankfully on my flights, they were so nice, they like put it up near the pilots because it was wet clay. It hadn't been fire jet, and it weighed a ton. And but it's a little bit different for me, but I really enjoyed this piece. And yes, it does have glaze on it, which, you know, I just went on and said I didn't usually use glaze, but I did in this case. And that's not a clay that I normally use. All of my sculptures are either red clay. Sometimes I'll use that black clay like you saw on Shiny Objects. You had a picture of that earlier. But this clay is from Adrian Arleo. It's her clay. And inside the clay, it actually has kind of like poly something strings. So it's very, very firm, and you can do a really humongous sculpture and it'll hold the weight. It's not very fun to work with, however, it like chews up your fingers and stuff. But that's what she uses, so that's what we used. But I learned a lot in that class because I had never done maquettes. And a maquette is like a practice piece that you're going to base your sculpture off, and it's usually quite small. And so I made a practice piece of this with a girl with a rabbit on her back, and it was probably 4 inches tall and detailed. And as I was sculpting her, I had that little teeny piece in front of me so that I could get the curvature of her back right. And it really changed how I do sculpture now. I always do a maquette first, and that way I can work out what needs to change, and, you know, and once I start doing the big sculpture. So
it makes me think of that old expression, he's got a monkey on his back, right?
oh yeah, I've done one like that too.
Okay, I think this is more positive than the monkey on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, the dogs are coming back.
Well, one so far. Otherwise, I'll just bang on the door.
We should give them a credit.
This sculpture is a tribute to my mom. It's just that my mom is the most amazing woman I've ever met in my life, and so giving and so caring, and I love her so much. And it's kind of an expression of how she was always there, no matter what you were doing. I was a competitive swimmer when I was a kid, and I mean, I was always going to swim practice every single day of my life from 6 years old until I left home and joined the Air Force. And my mom would take me and pick me up twice a day. She went to every swim meet I ever had with me. And I mean, she's just an amazing woman. And so this is kind of a tribute to her and all moms, frankly.
That's lovely. And Jen has some comments on the hands.
Oh.
Can I put you on the spot like that, Jen?
No, it's fine. Let me unmute them. It looks like your mom had very graceful hands.
She does currently.
Does.
Yeah.
And the one on the bottom looks like they're cradling a baby's head, like a newborn. It's just very, very sweet.
Thank you.
It's a lovely piece. Okay, let's see the next one. Is Proud Pete up next? I love
And as if on cue, the dog barks.
I know. How
That's
hilarious.
awesome.
We are good. We are good on this show.
Gosh. Okay, can everybody just hold on for 1 second? I will do something with them.
Okay.
Okay.
He,
I'm gonna just put them in my house.
okay. Well, wait. Please join us in the chat or in the Q&A rather. I think actually, Jen, we've got a question in the chat from Jean.
Okay, sorry about
Should
that.
we get that? Okay. Tell us about Proud Pete, Shawn.
Proud Pete's, the pit bull. I did this whole series. I think there's 11 of them altogether, and they're various animals in suits. So I had a goat in a suit, a Dalmatian in a suit, which maybe some people saw at Phillips Mill for the first member show. I had it in that. Pete's probably one of my favorite ones because he has so much character, and he has like a double-breasted blazer on. I just think he's like adorable.
Yeah, I love the way his ears are cocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's based, this one is based off of a picture of a dog that he likes actually smiles. Like I saw him in a picture and he actually smiles. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to make a dog that looks like that.
So what's with the animals in suits?
No, I just, I had done this whole series of men in suits on horseback, which became women in suits on horseback, and there's like 10 of them, which I don't think I gave you any pictures of, but because I put them on suits, all of a sudden I was like, I'm really gonna, I think I did the Dalmatian first, and I just love the idea of making the suit and doing kind of a tweed, like a Scottish tweed jacket. And so one thing led to another, as it always does with me, and I ended up with 10 of them, different animals: cats, dogs, a goat, a pig.
So just as your humans are invading the natural world with the women in feathers, the
Yeah,
animals are invading the human
yeah.
world.
And those are all at the Gallery Picule in New Hope.
Okay.
She has like all of those.
All right, let's we've got about 10 minutes remaining. Let's make sure we get any questions in and then we'll take some more images.
So I'm bringing this one up because Jean Underwood said, you spoke about wanting to create work that is hopeful and optimistic. Would you say your use of wing imagery is also about the possibility of transformation? It feels
Oh,
to me as if you are saying new things are possible.
absolutely. I mean, transformation. And also, like I said before, it's kind of like the freedom to choose, the freedom to decide your path. You know, you know, I'd like to say that I'm done with the birds in the sense of female figures as birds or with wings, but I probably won't ever be done with that. There's something about it that speaks to me and to my artistry that I have to keep finding a new way to do it, finding a new person that needs to be set free, basically, is how I look at it.
I think that's great news that you're going to keep them going. Um, there's something really special about the way the feathers play in as garments. It's not a heavy-handed, satyr kind of thing, although that could be interesting too, half human, half animal. The way you combine them is really interesting and appealing. Okay, what else, Jen?
Deborah asked, were you sculpting while painting or switched to sculpture when you gave up painting?
I when I retired, I went to my husband actually signed me up for a oil painting class at the bomb school. And I did that for about a year and a half. And during that time, my daughter's boyfriend was diagnosed with cancer, and we were very, very close to him. And so one time I went past the clay studio and I was like, huh, maybe I'll play with clay. But I didn't really do it until he had passed. And I kept doing both for a while. And I love to plein air paint. I mean, that's one of my favorite things. I just like being outside. That should be obvious by my sculptures. And so I did for quite a while. I kept plein air painting, but I was totally immersed into clay. And let me tell you, I was not good when I started. I remember the first thing I ever made, and the gal sitting next to me was trying to instruct me on how to make this relief tile. And I mean, it was a face on a relief tile. And it was so bad. I mean, I think one of my kids has it just to like tease me with, I guess. But I mean, it takes work, and you have to keep at it, and you have to push yourself and learn and take workshops and talk to other sculptors. And I had already been sculpting for probably 5 years before I learned about putting buttresses inside of a sculpture so that it would stand up straight and not kind of cave in on itself, you know? So you always have the opportunity to learn, and you can always develop your skills.
All right, do we have any more questions?
One quick one, I think. Florence wants to know, are any of your family members talented?
My dad was quite an artist, not for a living, but he was quite an artist, and no one else. My daughter, Allie, my oldest daughter, she's a very good artist. And my youngest daughter, Chelsea, is very creative. So, but both my sisters and my mom, no. It's kind of a joke in our family.
So let's go look at Warren. I love this piece so much. I want to know the story.
This was during COVID, and it is based off of the care workers that were taking care of people at the hospital during COVID. And you would see them standing outside the hospital, especially, I just remember I have a friend of mine that lives in New York, and she could see the hospital workers standing outside the hospital, and they were so exhausted and sweaty and worn. You're just worn down. You're trying to keep it together for everybody else, but you're pooped. And that's what this is. She's, I think when you look at her, you can see that she is the word.
She is the word. And I think we've all met this lady.
Yeah, we might have been this lady at a time or two in our lives. I feel that way currently.
Right. Thank you for showing that, Jen. Let's see. Yeah. Totally different.
Yeah.
Shawn.
I really thought people would love this. I put this at New Hope Arts. I don't know. I love it. It's all hands. And once again, they're wings. So they're wings going down their body, but the wings are made out of hands. And for one of them, on the one side, it's just one big hand with fingers. And on the other side, it's all these little teeny hands going down, making the wing. And it's a male and a female. And I kind of wanted it to look sort of like a heart coming up. So anyways, this resonates with me, but and it's in my front entryway.
I think it's great. I've seen, I feel like it's in the canon. There are pieces, there's a place for this. So but you never know. You never know
Yeah,
what appeals to people, right?
exactly.
And I think one of your prettier pieces is coming up next. That's just beauty.
Thank you. Um, you only can see her from the front, but in the back, her hair is kind of like dreadlocks. And in it are all these, the reason why it's called Sanctuary, once again with birds, is it has all these chickadees all through her hair in the back, and these and little nests here and there, and they're safe. They're being protected by her. Um, I think she's like, she really speaks about my art because it is nature and it is a positive thing and it's a figure. And this sits in a beautiful bay window in one of my friend's houses. And I'm glad that she's the one that has it.
It's really lovely, and I think that there, maybe it is a good representation of your art overall, where you're talking about sanctuary, you're talking about nature and our relationship with nature and the home, the crossover of that home,
Mhm. And also just to protect nature.
Right.
It's kind of like, it protects us and we should protect it and we should do what we can to make sure that, people that follow us will have something to enjoy. And, unfortunately, I don't think that enough attention is paid to that.
Absolutely. The stewardship.
Exactly.
Right. So, Shawn, what is next for you?
Whew. I don't know. I, it's so funny. I haven't had my hands in clay for a month. Um, I just entered two pieces into a show in New York because my friend Jean Underwood pushed me. And I've never done that. I've never gone outside of our area, really. And I'm really excited. I'll find out tomorrow whether I got in. Yeah, fingers crossed. And I think what I really want to do is kind of expand things, but I also want to. I'm taking a workshop in November up in Massachusetts, and I'm really looking forward to it because it's techniques that I know nothing about, and I'm really anxious to go and find out new stuff that I can come back and incorporate. The other thing I'm going to try this year, I've had to talk my husband into it. We'll see how that works. Is I want to do pit firings, like actually put my figurative sculptures into wood fire, and so that I can see, like, get the smoke on there and the various things. And I mean, I'm really excited to do that, to try it. I've never done it before. I've never even participated in anything like that before, but I'm going to do it. So those are some of my goals for this coming year.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that. Good luck in New York. Thank you so much for joining us on Art Talk.
Thank you guys. Thank everybody. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful that I've met everybody at Phillips Mill, and that everybody's so warm, and I can't say enough of what a great feeling it is. Seriously, I've met some wonderful, wonderful people.
Yeah. And I want to thank the people in the audience who came tonight. There are a lot of artists who joined us and a lot of people who give a lot of time at Phillips Mill, and we're so appreciative of that for them coming to Art Talk and for them coming here for you, Shawn. So thank you all for joining us on Art Talk, and I hope you'll come back on October 15th when Abby Lua of Michener Art Museum joins us. She's assistant curator there, and she's going to talk about her research on piña cloth. Yes, it's a textile show. I think it'll be interesting, though, if you're not a native textilian. It's pineapple fiber from Abby's native Philippines. So, thank you so much to Jen McHugh, our technical director.
You're welcome. Happy to be here. This was fun. Congratulations again, Shawn.
Thanks, Jen.
And thanks so much to Deanna Bocher, our content producer. We're so grateful for her help. Grateful for all of you. I'm Laura Womack. Good night.